marketing, explosive growth, and revolutionary secrets that can catapult your business to new heights. You're now listening to the Underground Marketer Podcast with your host, Tudor Dumitrescu, the one podcast devoted to showing new businesses how to market themselves for high growth.
Welcome to the Underground Marketer. This is the place where we deliver the real truth about marketing and explore big ideas that can help new businesses thrive and grow into big ones. I'm your host Tudor, and today I'd like to talk about something that's related to sales. And the topic is something that's actually going to be important for a lot of you. And I see this mistake being made by a lot of beginners and a lot of people who are not professional salespeople. And the mistake really is that they consider sales to be pretty much making friends. And that's not actually accurate. And when you make this mistake, and when you think of sales as making friends, you're going to do a lot of mistakes that are going to impact you negatively throughout the sales process. The biggest mistake and the most common one that I see is that people start chatting with their customers on sales calls. And they chat to them, oh, what about your dog? Oh, what about your family? Oh, you're from there. Oh, that's cool. I know somebody else who's from there. And on it goes. And that has nothing to do with selling. And it's actually counterproductive to selling. It makes you look unprofessional. It makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about. And it doesn't make a good impression on the person you're talking to. So that's not the right way to approach it. And it's literally the number one mistake I see in most beginners who are trying to do sales. They think that they should somehow lick up, I don't have a better word, but they should somehow lick up to their customer and get their customer to like them. And that's completely wrong. You don't need your customer to like you to sell them something. They don't need to be your friends to buy from you. And in fact, most people who are going to buy from you, if you're going to build a business at any sort of scale, they're not going to be your friends at all. That's not the reason why people buy. Sure, liking someone can lead to some sort of influence over them, of course, but that's not the main reason why people buy. I mean, somebody has to be stupid to buy from you because they like you, and just because they like you, even though your product or service is actually useless for them, right? So there is no correspondence between the buyer liking you and you succeeding in the sale. The most important factor actually to succeed in the sale is to make sure that your product or service is tailored to the needs of the buyer and can fulfill those needs in a way that's easy for the buyer and straightforward for them so that they actually take action on it. That's what you're looking for. You don't need sort of sales process where you have to get the guy to become your friend and somehow trick him into buying. That's not what this is about. And professional salespeople, they never do that. It's true that building rapport is very important in the sale. And all you have to do that is exchange a few words in the beginning and basically show that person that you're a human being. But the moment where you drag this throughout the sales call and you start talking about your family and what you like doing and your hobby, and the guy maybe mentions that he likes to go hunting and you tell him, oh yeah, going hunting is so cool, I love it, I do the same as you. That's bullshit, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should stop right away. And most people who complain actually about not being able to make sales, this is the number one thing that I see, that I identify with them. They're getting on calls with prospects and they start trying to become friends with them. And their discussions, they don't have a goal. Or if they do have a goal, then the goal is quickly forgotten. And here's the number one thing you need to learn about sales. Sales is a goal-directed conversation. Goal-directed conversation. And what that means is that you always have a goal in sales. And that goal isn't necessarily to close somebody, and we're going to talk about what your goal should be. But you should always have a goal, and whenever you interact with a prospect, you should always be moving towards your goal. And if you veer off in any other direction, then you've lost. You've lost, first of all, control over the sale. And if you've lost control over the sale, you've lost everything. I can tell you now that the moment you lose control over the sale, or if the buyer doesn't let you have control over the sale, then you should stop speaking with them. There's no reason for you to talk with them in the first place. There's nothing that you can get out of it. You'll just waste your time and you'll waste their time and you're going to get nothing out of it. So don't do that. Don't think that what actually you need in order to make more money and actually sell people, because it's not. You just need to be very clear about what's your goal, and then with everything that you say and everything that you ask, you're driving the conversation forward towards that goal. Now, what should the goal be? It really depends on what you're selling and how your sales process looks like. In some cases, especially for higher ticket items, more than one call is necessary to close the person. First of all, because you may not understand all the needs that the person has to start with, right? So you need to spend time to investigate what those needs are, figure them out, and then actually start telling them about how your product can address those needs. So if that's the case, and if you're going higher ticket and it's a complex sale, the product that you're selling is complex, then you're likely to encounter a situation like this. So maybe the goal for the first sales conversation is simply to figure out if your product can even help the prospect. If he has the needs that your product can actually solve. And that's the goal. If you the moment you figure out that he's fit for your product, then you move to the next step. And the next step may be to schedule a call with them to actually do a demonstration of the product or whatever it is. And if that's the goal, that's what you're after, right? And everything that you do, everything that you say in that call is moving you towards this direction. It's true that in the beginning, you do have sales calls where you need to build rapport, right? And building rapport doesn't have to be complex. I think that a lot of you make a mistake when it comes to building rapport because you're making it basically harder than it is. All that it takes is to show the guy that you're a human being, that you're basically saying hello, that you're friendly, and that you ask them how they are, you maybe ask them how things are going with them, and then you just move into the sales call. You don't waste your time with talking about and flying off to Mars or whatever other planet and talking about bullshit with them, right? There's no need for you to do that, and it doesn't actually help. They need to see from the moment they step on the call with you, they need to see that you're a professional, you know what you're doing, you take charge of the sales conversation, and you can drive it forward in a way that's meaningful for them and that's going to get them results. That's what they want. If your product can help them, what they want is you to tell them, my product isn't going to help you and it's not right for you. And that's it. The objective is met if you do that. And the reason why, actually, I think a lot of people don't approach sales in this systematic way is, number one, they don't prepare to do it, right? So what most people do is they work really hard to get people to come on a conversation with them, and then they step into the conversation with no plan at all. They don't even have a goal. They have no clue what they're going to ask, how they're going to ask it, what they're aiming to do. They have no idea. They say, I'll just hop on the call to find out more about this guy. There's no point in finding out more about him if you can't sell him anything. There's no point in finding out more about him if it's not going to move you closer to a sale. Just don't do the sales call at all. It's going to be much better for you if you don't do it, rather than doing it and wasting your own time, and even worse, wasting your prospect's time, right? So instead of doing that, you need to have a plan. And the plan really in sales means a script. And I know what many of you are thinking now. You're thinking that if I have a script, I can't react to different situations, and the prospect can say this and that, and he can do this and that, and the conversation can go into a million different directions. How can I predict all of these? And if that's what you're thinking, then you are showing a symptom of the problem that I've been talking about. You can't control the conversation. Because if you can control the conversation, then there's nothing that the buyer can do to move you off track. Nothing. There's not a million possible conversations that you can have. There's just one, the one in your script. Because if you have a prospect, for example, let's say that your approach is that after you do the introduction and chit chat for 1 to 2 minutes, Then you move into getting the right to ask your buyer questions. Let's say that this is your approach. And let's say that you ask your buyer, Mr. Prospect, I'd love to see if what I have here is actually a fit for your needs, so it would be great if I can ask you a few questions. And they say, well, I don't think so, I'd rather ask you questions. Let's say that that's their response. Then your response should not be to follow them. Not at all. Your response should be, I'm very sorry, Mr. Prospect, if that's what you intend to do, then this is probably not the right format to do it in. I have a process here to identify very quickly if this product is actually a fit for you and if it can actually help you. And doing that saves both of us the most amount of time. So shall we dive into it? And then if they say yes, of course, then you're going to continue with your script. If they don't say yes and they still insist to do it their way, then the only choice that you have really is to tell them, sorry, Mr. Prospect, this conversation is probably over then. I have a process that I'm following here that I know delivers me consistent results and helps people learn if this is for them in the quickest way possible. If this doesn't fit your needs, then I apologize and I prefer not to waste any more of your time. And off you go. You're off the call. All right? So that's what you have to do. You have to follow the goal like a bull follows the flag, the red flag, right? Remember those bulls in Spain? The toreador shows them the red flag and then they go and they chase that red flag. They're blind completely to anything else. That's how you need to be when you're doing sales. You have your goal and you have your script, which is written out. It's written out step by step, what you do, where you have to take the conversation next, what questions to ask, what questions not to ask, when to ask questions. Everything is structured and available in your script. And if you start to do sales this way and you have goal-directed conversations, you're going to see that your results increase significantly. You're going to, for the very first time in your life, start to sell properly. Have a goal, have a plan, have a script, and move prospects through it. You are the expert. You know the right process for buying your product. Your prospect doesn't, right? You have to educate them. And you have to do this nicely. Of course, I'm not saying educate them in a way that you're going to put them off, but you need to be adamant that your process is followed. Adamant. And it's essential that you do this. I literally know no successful salesperson, and I can repeat this, who doesn't follow an exact step-by-step process, no matter how natural his conversations look. Because I tell you now, if you do this right, and if you plan, if you have a goal for the conversation, you plan in advance, you have a script, and you execute well on it, it's going to look to your prospect as a completely natural conversation. He will not feel that you're controlling the conversation. He will not feel that you're interrogating them. He will not feel that you're putting him on the spot. The only time he can actually feel those things is if you either have a bad script or number two, you're not executing the script the right way. That's when he can start feeling things like that. But if you do have a right script and if you're executing it properly, there is literally no chance that that's going to happen. So remember what I said in the beginning. When you're selling, you're not making friends. Don't try to get people to like you. Do build some rapport initially, but don't focus on it. That's not the main goal. The main goal is to either close that person or advance them in the sales process. That's your only two possible goals in sales. And if you're not doing either of those, if you're becoming friends with a person, then you're not doing the right thing, because the right thing for you is to make money. It's not to be liked by people. Okay, you're not in sales because you want other people to like you and to become your friend and to like who you are and to like hanging around with and talking about meaningless stuff and whatever. You've got your friends for that. That's what they're for. But your prospect, he's there for you to close him. And you have to close him. You have to move the sale forward no matter what happens. And the way you do that, the biggest thing is to have a goal. Know what you're trying to get out of that conversation. That's number one. Number two, you need to have a script, and you need to make sure that your prospect follows that script. The script and the plan that you have, that's how you control the conversation and you make sure that your goals are met. And remember that you are the expert here. You know the right way for your product to be bought by someone. Your prospect doesn't. They have no idea. That's why they're meeting with you in the first place, so that you can guide them to making that purchase or to deciding if it's right for them. That's literally why they're meeting with you. Because if they already knew if it was right for them and how the buying process should go, like if they knew that, why would they need you? Why would they hop on a call with you to listen to you, to answer your questions? Why? They could just go ahead and buy the product, right? I mean, that's the only reason why somebody needs a salesperson. If they know everything already, they don't need a salesperson. They just say, here's the money, give me the service or give me the product, whatever it is. So that's what you need to realize. And it's very important because it's literally, I would say, in the top 3 for sure, but mistakes that people make. Maybe it's actually the number 1 mistake that people make when they start to do sales. They're not clear about their priorities, they don't have a process, they don't have a script, and they don't have a goal for the conversation that they're having. So it's very important that you do this. It's very important also that you have a plan for the questions that you're going to ask. And think about the steps that you need to take a buyer through in the sales process. You've got to qualify them, right? Are they right for your product? You've got to irritate their pain points and ask them questions that are going to get them to think about their problems or to discover new problems that they weren't even aware of. You have to get them to think about the consequences of those problems. So those problems become more immediate for them and they demand an action for them. And then you have to get them to realize what it would take to solve those problems, right? So you have to do all of that, and that comes after qualifying them and before you actually demonstrate and start pitching to them. Because this is the other mistake that people make. They jump straight into pitching the guy and they have no idea who they are, why they're there, what sort of needs they have, and they just start pitching them, and then they go on and on and on for like 30-40 minutes, and by the time it's over, the guy is like, I'm not interested, sorry, bye-bye, and it's game over. And they're not interested because they didn't realize they have any of those problems, or those problems were not strong enough to demand that they take action on them, right? And they didn't develop the consequences of those problems. The seller didn't, and didn't present the solution in light of the specific problems that the buyer has, right? And because he didn't do this, he lost the sale. So it's very important that you understand this sales process, judge your calls in terms of it, and move forward like that. So remember, qualifying, then you get into the process of discovering their needs and irritating them and getting them to understand what a solution would involve. Then you present your solution and you demonstrate that it's right for them, for their specific needs. You present the benefits that are relevant to them, not just any benefits. And then you close, right? So those are the steps of the selling process. And if you follow these steps and you combine it with planning, and you combine it with having a goal for every conversation that you have. Maybe in one conversation you go just through one part of this process. Maybe you just qualify them. Maybe you've qualified them already and you're just going to ask them a few questions and get them to think about the problems that they have, and with a goal that by the end you're going to schedule a time to demonstrate the solution for them, right? So whatever it is, you're going to go through this process, no matter if you do it in 10 calls or you do it in one call, right? So you still need to plan for it. You need to have a goal for each call. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to control the conversation. And you do that by having a script. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you today. Remember to stay tuned for the next episode, and until next time, keep growing your business and providing massive value to the world. You are the reason why we're all growing richer, our freedoms are expanding, and we're all living in greater prosperity. Thank you.